Well, hello everyone. I wish to thank you for joining me on this freezing morning. It is so cold here. If you're new to the podcast or our vlog, please take a moment to head over to our effed up true crime social media pages on Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, and especially the Facebook page. The Facebook page is where I spend a lot of my time if I'm on social media, which hasn't been a lot of late, but I do always pop in during the day. It's where all of the cases, I will always put updated information, images from podcasts, because if you're joining us by podcast, welcome, and know that we're on YouTube now as well. But yeah, any cases that are happening in the news, I put up straight away. Also, before we go any further, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button. And this goes for podcasting as well as YouTube. There are definitely subscribe buttons there, so that anytime we come to you with a new case, you will be notified straight away. And you don't want to miss out, because I cover any case, regardless of the content. I will always cover it. I'd also like to invite you all to make any suggestions regarding cases you want to hear more about. Cases that are either unknown or have been highly covered in the media. We're not fast although I must admit that the unknown cases do excite me a little when I haven't heard anything about it. It's frustrating though, because sometimes, there isn't a lot that you can go on, but hell, I'll dig. I don't mind. And on our pages, on our Facebook page and Twitter, there are options to create posts on those pages or to tag us. So if you wish to contact me, throw me a friend request even at author KL Lee, and the effed up true crime logo is my profile picture. So you'll be able to link the two. I always accept friend requests. I'm terrible. I really should. I've been told that I should do a little background on people before pressing accept, but I'm too lazy for that. So, but make sure you do it, like, you add me as soon as possible, because since creating that profile, I have been rapidly receiving new friend requests. So before we get started, I would like to begin with a trigger warning. The cases we are covering today are not easy, and some people don't want to hear about the details that we will be covering, which includes child abuse, rape of a child, and it also covers gang rapes that have taken place here in Australia. I've got 3 short cases to bring to you, and if you don't think you can handle hearing about these cases, I implore you to turn us off. Still hit subscribe for later cases, but I would really like for you to put yourself first. Your mental health is so important to me, so much more than likes and views. I myself have and still suffer with some severe depression that was sparked out of sexual abuse as a child that happened to me between the ages of 4 and 11 by someone that I trusted and that my parents trusted. So I know how hard it can be. I will never say I know what you're going through, because everybody's situation is different if you have been through the molestation as when you were a child. But feel free to contact us if you need help. Always, no matter what time of day, doesn't matter. please feel free to contact me if you feel you need to talk to someone. And I've got friends around the globe that deal with this. So we would be able to help you get in touch with someone that suits you, that would suit your needs as a counsellor. Right. So today's case only hit our headlines here in Australia 18 hours ago. Yet the crime took place on the 1st of July in 2020, so 17 days ago. It happened on the northwest coast in Napranum, Far North Queensland. Up there is an Aboriginal community where a 5-year-old boy was brutally raped by 4 boys. 4 boys between the ages of 10 and 13. What is happening in the world around us? Why the hell are there 13-year-olds out there raping other children? Because they're still children themselves. It's so young to even be thinking that way. I'll never understand it. Never. The community and not law enforcement have actually banned them from returning to their community. So they're taking matters into their own hands because there simply aren't enough law enforcement agencies up there in these rural towns. The boys are in custody for the moment. As much as I understand why the community is threatening to keep those children out of their town, at the same time I feel it only means they will go to another town, a town that has no knowledge of their crimes, a town that could very well welcome them with open arms, only to have the risk of having rapists live among their community. And I know there are just so many of them now. It's just so ridiculous. In my area alone, there is 20. So my kids never ever go out alone. And in the previous house that was meant to be a safe location, there was 13. So I wish if I had looked it up before we moved, I definitely would not have moved here, regardless of how cool my house is. I would have found somewhere else. But, as previously stated, it is alleged that they are being held in custody. But as we all know and have seen, they won't remain there for all that long due to their ages. Juveniles have a different set of rules imposed upon them, rules that wouldn't come into play when in the adult court system. There's many leniencies, which I believe it should be the opposite. No leniency to teach them young, but I'm not a judge. Yes, they may receive counselling while in, but however, from what I've read while researching this case in these towns, the justice system up north pretty much just throws people, say from the adult section of the justice system, they throw them behind bars and forget about them until their release date. A study in 2016 stated that around 20 in every 1,000 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people were incarcerated. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander incarceration rates increased by 41% between 2006 and 2016. That is a huge jump. Almost 50%. You're closer to 50% than anything else. The study also stated that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women constitute of 34% of the female prison population in Australia. That's some high numbers. But I feel that the Indigenous people in Australia aren't equipped with the tools they need to live. In comparison to the white folks, if that's what you want to call us, they don't have the government help that they need, including police, education, and any other government assistance. I just find that I feel they need more support. They need more support. They need more just to be able to get through things, because you see a lot of it. This is their country, and yet they're the ones not receiving the help that they need. Anyway, back to the case. At least 2 of these boys that raped the 5-year-old, whose name has been kept from the public due to his age, will go out and rape again once released. Studies have shown that when children are engaged in sexual acts that they initiate before the age of 16, 2 of them will go on to rape again. And we've seen it before. We've all seen it. I'm sick of saying that. I'm sick of saying we've seen it before, because I wish people would just learn and pull their heads in and stop doing such stupid shit that really changes someone else's life forever. But the attack was so severe on this child, so brutal, that the 5-year-old needed to be airlifted to Cairns Hospital, which is over 800 kilometres away from where it happened. So remember, they're in a rural town. So there is a small medical facility, but they weren't equipped to perform surgery due to the damage caused to his little body. Members of the community have been torn to pieces over this case. It has also opened up some wounds that have never truly healed from a case that was back in 2005, where a 10-year-old girl was raped. But I'll come to that story in a few minutes. I'll cover that in a few minutes. As stated, not one of these boys has been formally charged as yet. It is early days though, so I will be sure to update you on the case as it progresses, and I'll be sure to have Google alerts on my phone so that we can immediately stay up to date. So let's cover the case that we just touched upon. In another Aboriginal community of Oricune, again Far North Queensland, which by the way I did not go out of my way to find Indigenous cases. It's just that when I was looking them up, there was that related to search, and this came up. And the third one also, that's how I found the third one as well. So, as stated, again in Far North Queensland, a 10-year-old girl, whose name, of course, has not come out, even though this was 2006. She was gang raped by 9 men. But the outrage across the community poured because all 9 men escaped charges regarding to the rape. They all escaped charges. Wow. It also came out that at least one of these men raped the girl 3 years prior to this attack, when the girl was only 7 years of age. The girl's mother came out and told reporters she should never have been allowed to be taken out of the foster care system while these boys were still hanging around. We told welfare agencies that they had raped her in the past. So the mother... Okay, I'm not going to judge. I don't know their situation. I don't know why she was in foster care, and I think it's not great, but I think it's good that the mother had actually spoken up saying that the child shouldn't come home from foster care. Normally, they will try to get that child home under any circumstance regarding if there is a risk. So I've got to give props to her for saying that, she shouldn't have been home. So I've done some digging. There isn't a lot of details regarding the girl's home life. I can only speculate that these rapists that she was warning the welfare agencies about were related to the girl. Hence the reason why they're still in the vicinity of the home. It also could be due to the fact that a couple of the rapists were actually in their late teens. So they still would have been maybe regarded as juveniles, hence why their names haven't come out. But they could have been charged in the adult court, but still too young to move out. So 17 years of age. This is only my speculation though. Please don't take that as a fact. But they were, so when it happened, they were still minors. But minors is under 18. So, like I said, it could have been 17. The judge that was put in charge of this case, Judge Sarah Bradley, decided she wasn't going to record these rapists. She wasn't going to put it on the record. She even went as far as to suspend their sentences. Even though she suspended them, the prosecution for the community announced that they were going to appeal that decision. And they did in 2008, 2 years later. But the judgment was upheld, unfortunately. From what I've read, no one has gone to jail for this case. The 10-year-old girl was then placed in witness protection after all of this, and her family were only allowed to speak to her via Skype once a week. Her uncle told the Australian newspaper she sleeps with the light on and she gets jumpy when she receives new caseworkers. Close quote. As you would after all of this happening. It turned out that the authorities within the government agencies handling this particular case had knowledge of the rapes, and yet they never reported it to the police. It came out that the girl was intellectually impaired due to the fact that her mother was abusing alcohol while pregnant. So she was born with fetal alcohol syndrome, which can affect the baby not only physically but mentally as well. It can cause mental illness, it can cause a lack of IQ, and that's not the child's fault. So the girl was then placed in foster care due to the mother's continued abuse of alcohol. Due to the lack of protection regarding the girl's situation, an internal investigation was launched. The investigation went on for a good 8 months, and it turned up evidence stating that the Queensland Child Safety Department had completely dropped the ball and they were not protecting little ones. In fact, there was evidence showing that there had been many rapes and other forms of abuse reported to the agency. However, they were never passed on to the law enforcement for further investigation. That's not protecting these kids. That's terrible. The internal investigation resulted in one senior officer being fired and 2 others suspended for 12 months with pay. Yuck, because sitting around doing nothing for a year and getting paid for it will really teach them a lesson. Suspended with pay, come on. So the police have made sure in this area that the locals know they are supposedly around and watching things, keeping an eye on what goes on. Whether that's true, I don't know. There have been more rapes in this town since, and it doesn't seem that there are any improvements when it comes to the policing in that town. So it's sad. They need more education. They need more law enforcement. They need help. Throwing them away and incarcerating people, Indigenous people, unless of course if it's murder or rape, I don't think it's helping. I think that they need more help. It's like the policing after this Black Lives Matter protest. The agencies are now wanting to put more money into education and into the cities instead of putting it into police. And I personally I love the cops. I love police. I got no issue. Except if they're bad ones that just wanted to be cops just so that they could have a badge and, feel superior, like that idiot that murdered George Floyd. But the good ones, love them. They're awesome. I had a conversation and a coffee down with a random police officer the other day. I had walked down to the shops for some exercise, and I don't even know, he was booking someone on a drugs charge, and then we got talking. But I am very nosy. I am. When I see an officer, if I see him and he's not physically restraining someone, I go and ask questions. And then, if they're really nice, I ask them if I can contact them later on regarding cases, regarding not so much information about cases they're working on, but what the police procedures would be. And I tell you, even defense lawyers, they're fantastic. So defense lawyers, when covering something like, okay, let's go with O.J. Simpson, because everybody knows that case. I don't understand why anyone would defend someone who's so blatantly guilty. And see, before that I would have said allegedly, but after the book, if I did it, no, he's guilty as hell. But yeah, the defense lawyers, I like to sit in court before coronavirus. When my kids would go to school and I didn't have a day of writing on schedule, I'd go and sit at the court down here about 10 minutes away, because I was in the fiction world, it would help jog my mind. It would help me plot a story, anything that could help me while writing the Plaid series, which is a serial killer. And I would ask them for their cards and ask them if I could contact them if I needed information. And I never got no said to me, never. But yeah, so I'm all for the police, but I do believe that funding needs to be in the community more. Right, now, sorry, second case. I always get off topic, don't I? This case involves the rape of a child. It happened in 2018, and she was only 2 years old. A 27-year-old man by the name of Kingsley Corbett was arrested for raping the 2-year-old girl. The attack happened on February 15th, 2018. And in turn, this poor child suffers severe psychological damage, even at the age of 2, due to the heinous crimes committed against her. The Crown Prosecutor, Glenn Dooley, told the court the offender had removed the little girl from the lounge room where she was sleeping on the sofa while the mother was in bed sleeping. It's been said that he arrived at the house after 10 p.m. and after the mother had in fact gone to her room to sleep. There were others coming and going from the house that night, and apparently this was a normal practice in their home. People would be in and out of the house day and night. Must have been a party house. Kingsley Corbett picked the girl up, carried her through to one of the empty bedrooms, where he proceeded to rape her tiny little body. What I don't understand is, why didn't any one of these people who were in and out of that home hear that tot screaming? There's no way in hell that poor child didn't react to the horrible things being done to her by screaming through this horrid ordeal. There's no ways. Not a chance. When he was done with the poor girl, as was stated by the prosecutors, done. He took her back out to the living room and laid her back down on the sofa where she was. Sometime later that night, another man that had come walking in saw the girl bleeding and woke the mother, who immediately dressed the baby and called for an ambulance. I could not have people coming in and out of my house with my children around, and especially not leaving them on the sofa. I had my brother-in-law stay, and as much as he's a great guy and everything, my kid, I made sure that she slept in our bed. Deep down I know he would never do anything, but there's always that little thought in the back of my head that you never know. You see these cases where everybody's like, oh my God, he was the nicest guy. I can't believe he did this. So I have to treat the world as if every single one of them is a pedophile, just to be able to save my kids and keep them safe from harm. The toddler suffered severe internal injuries. She definitely cried, including cuts, bleeding, swelling, and bruising after the man raped her. The sick and twisted bastard even gave the girl gonorrhea, a sexually transmitted disease. After the girl was treated at Tennant Creek Hospital, she had to be flown to Adelaide, where she received blood transfusions and further medical help that the Tennant Creek Hospital wasn't equipped to perform, all due to the severity of the injuries that the monster inflicted upon her. Again, the Crown Prosecutor, Glenn Dooley, told the judge that the offending was in the worst category and he should receive the maximum penalty of life in jail. This is a crime that deeply disturbed the Tennant Creek community and the nation. He also said, Glenn Dooley also said that the man had no remorse and had shown no empathy for his crimes. In the beginning, he denied the offence, and he even went on to construct an alibi. An alibi the police investigators had managed to dismantle rather quickly. Eventually, Kingston went on to plead guilty. Thank goodness. To sexual intercourse with a minor without the consent at the Alice Springs Supreme Court. This is something I'm grateful for, because when these assholes come out and plead guilty, they save the family from having to go through a jury trial. So there could be so many what ifs if a family was to go through trial. What if they get guilty? What if they don't get guilty? What sentence will be handed down? So a guilty plea, even though usually they make a deal, in your heart you know that he's gone for at least a period of time. It's never enough, but the punishment never fits the crime, ever. Kingsley Corbett's defence lawyer, John McBride, said that it had been a terrible act against a vulnerable child, but said a psychological report showed the offender did have some remorse for his actions. Yet I haven't found any evidence of that. His mugshot, which I will put up, he's smirking. And he makes you want to punch him in the face. In the end, he was given 13 years with a non-parole period of 9.5. Wow. Although, you know what? It is a lot more than some others. I believe that rapists, and especially pedophiles, should receive life. They should be castrated. They should never be put in protection while in custody. I say let the other prisoners give them punishments they deserve, because they do. They should. They should just be let go. I don't understand why you would give someone that committed such a heinous crime protection. Just put them out in the general public and let the boys go for it, I say. So, thank you for joining me. Now, I have a new little obsession. I'm obsessed with the Jeffrey Epstein case that is up against the guards. The case where they were formally charged in connection of his suicide. If you're listening via podcast, please note that I did use air quotes while saying suicide. But I will bring you all my thoughts on this another day, along with new information that just came out regarding Prince Andrew's involvement in the sex trafficking ring. But for now, I need to finish and record the murder of Taylor McAllister. I will not be doing anything else until I have completed that specific case. I'm in the middle of writing a book on it, and I will also be putting some details up on the case between now and, until the book's out. I don't know when that will be. I do not have a publication date for that because I am still trying to get the DA to talk to me, which they won't. The police department won't talk to me either. There's a big cover-up going on, so we wish to shine a light on this case and make it so damn bright that they can't ignore it anymore. It was deemed a murder. The autopsy was deemed as a murder, but they treated it as an overdose. Anyway, there are so many murders to cover, and there just aren't enough hours in the damn day. But I'm going to do my very best to bring the details of cases we cover to you. But for now, I will be off to scour the crime scene photos from Taylor's case that her parents sent over to me. They are wonderful people that need answers. I warn you that the images will be graphic. And if you're listening to this as a podcast and going to be listening to the McAllister case as a podcast, know that I will be putting them up on the true crime pages, our effed up true crime pages. For today, I wish to say goodbye, but I will for sure be back tomorrow. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me.